Hello and welcome to Tap That MTG, the show where we tell you everything we know about Magic the Gathering that's probably wrong but fun to talk about. I'm Leslie.
I'm Shauna.
And we are bringing you another pre-con deep dive into the Modern Horizons 3 decks that have just come out. So we are going to break the decks down for you, tell you all the cards that are in the deck, talk about what the deck is meant to do, how to play it wisely, and if you wait until the end, we will have some suggestions for
Mm-hmm.
tweaks that will offer you a handful that you can maybe work with to maybe make the deck even better. So Sean is going to start us off by telling us which deck we're talking about and who the commander is and what it's meant to do.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone. So this deck is called the Graveyard Overdrive, and Overdrive it is. This is all about being extremely aggressive, dumping stuff from your library into or your hand into the graveyard. Certainly not the death triggers. You want stuff to be discarded or taken off the top of your library for this deck to work. So Disa the Restless is our commander, our main commander. She's for 2, a black, red, and green, and just a little human scout, but 5/6, so she's pretty powerful on her own. And whenever a Lurgoyf, so this is a weird name, a Lurgoyf permanent card is put in your graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, you get to put it onto the battlefield. So who cares about casting it? There's some big stompy things in here. And whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a Tarmogoyf token. So this is actually, you can only create one. So we made a little bit of a error there yesterday, but so we were playing with this deck yesterday, against this deck yesterday, and you can actually only create one. It says one or more creatures you control deal combat damage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only one token, but still, these are crazy. And then we've also got our secondary commander is Coram the Undertaker, and he is a 0/5 for one black, a black, a red, and a green. So for 4, he gets +X/+0, where X is the greatest power among creature cards in all graveyards. Whenever Coram attacks, each player mills a card. And during each of your turns, you may play a land and cast a spell from among cards in graveyards that are put there from libraries this turn. So this is about milling your opponents and using their stuff. So you might want to try that one as well. So basically, it's a very aggressive deck, and using these Lurgoyf and Tarmogoyf tokens, whose power and toughness is based on the number of cards, usually creature cards, in the graveyards of everyone. So, and then its toughness is often +1 of those as well. So they get crazy big, crazy fast because you're killing everything in sight, and it runs you over.
Yeah.
This deck, that's what it's all about.
It's pretty crazy.
Les is going to give us the deck breakdown there.
Awesome. Well, when we look at the guts of this deck, this has a very beautiful mana curve.
Mm-hmm.
It is exactly what a mana curve is supposed to look like, with most of yours around the 3/4 range. So we have 0 to 1 in the 4 in the 0 to 1, 11 in the 2, 13 in the 3, 14 in the 4, 10 at 5 mana cost, 8 plus at 6 plus 8 at 6 plus mana cost, and we only have 1X. The reason we only have 1X in this deck is because if you're playing them from the graveyard for free or putting them on, then you can't choose what X is. So it can not work for you very well if one of those happens to be one coming from your graveyard. So as far as colors go, we have a lot of multicolor in this deck, 24, 6 colorless, 11 green, red is 8, and black is 12. So as far as your colors go, we're fairly even, and then a lot of multicolored cards in this deck. Card types, mostly creatures at 32. We have 14 instants and sorceries, 3 enchantments, 9 artifacts, and 3 planeswalkers. So those planeswalkers we'll talk about in a minute, but they're going to help you with some of that, getting things into your graveyard or bringing things back from your graveyard. But we're going to break down this deck based on a formula we like to use, and Sean's going to tell you all about that.
Okay, so the formula we like to use is something that Wizards seems to use as well. But basically, we want to have 15 ramp cards, 15 or so. And those are, of course, your mana dorks and stuff like that. 15 removal, so it could be single removal or board wipe type removal. About 13 card draw, or oh my gosh, what's the word?
Tutors.
Thank you, tutors. About 13 of those. 12 high impact, so those are the game winning cards that get on the board and they have to be removed by your opponents, otherwise you win the game. And then about 10 cards that support the theme of the deck or support those win conditions. So and then usually about 35 land is what we try to have in the decks that we like to build. So Leslie, what's our first category there?
Well, we like to talk about ramp, those things that fix your mana or get you more mana. So we recommend about 15. This deck has 11 that we can see. So the first one is Burnished Heart. It's a 2/2 little elk for 3, and you can pay 3, sacrifice it to search your library for 2 basic land cards and put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So nice little turn 3 play if you can get it, so you can get some more mana out there.
And then this little ignoble hierarch, little 0/1 mana dork, which is really nice for the black, red, or green. However, he also has exalted, so whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1 until end of turn. So that will help you with your aggressive piece of your deck as well. You can get going right away with your aggressive stuff and give it +1.
Yep. And then we have the Sakura Tribe Elder. He's a little snake shaman for 2. He's a 1/1, so you can just put him out on the battlefield. And then at any time, you can sacrifice him to search for a basic land card. For those of you that may be new to Magic, just a reminder that you can block with a creature before you sacrifice it, and sacrifice in response, so you still get the block out of it. So that's usually how you use this one, which some people call Steve.
Yeah. Then the Yavimaya Elder. Shauna didn't get to play this at instant speed last night because she was desperate for cards. So sometimes you got to not use them as a blocker because you just need cards. So this one, when it dies, this is 2/1, and when it dies, you may search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle, and you can pay 2 to sacrifice this and draw a card as well. So I was desperate.
Sometimes you just need that land. You're looking for some land, right?
Land, yes.
Rampant Growth for 2 is search your library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped.
And then we have, of course, our Arcane Signet and Soul Ring cards, which are staples in these commander decks, which is so nice that Wizards does that. Arcane Signet is 2 to tap for any mana of any color in your commander's identity. And then the Soul Ring, of course, is just pay 1 and you get 2 colorless, which is awesome.
Yep, and we have 3 talismans in this deck that tap for basically the colors that you need. So the Impulse, the Indulgence, and the Resilience. So these will go for colorless mana, or if you decide to do some damage to yourself, which is fine, you can do that. Then you can make them one of the colors that is on them. So that's a nice 3 little rocks to have in there.
Yeah. And then this card has a new card. We think it's a new card anyway. The Reaver Cleaver. It's a little artifact equipment that you can attach to your creature, and it gets +1 and has trample, which is really nice. So you're making all these big things, so it's nice to be able to have that trample. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, create that many treasure tokens. That will be really powerful with some of your really big creatures. Can certainly get through and make extra treasure, and you need that treasure to play stuff. So yeah, It's great.
Yep. Anytime you have a card that does 2 things, a body with something on it is great. A lot of our card drawn or mana spells also have both, and that is our next session, card drawn tutors. Formula calls for 13. Our deck has 8, so it's a little low on the card draw. This might be an area that you want to tweak if you find that you're not getting enough cards in your hand, but you are also playing things from the graveyard. So your graveyard is very beneficial to you in this. Goif. I'm going to struggle with that this entire video. Sorry, guys. For 3, this is a Death Touch lifelink, and its power is equal to the number of card types amongst cards in all graveyards. Its toughness is equal to that +1. And when it deals combat damage to a player, you may mill that many cards. If you do, you may put a creature card from among them into your hand. So a few key things there. You may mill cards, so that means it's a choice. You don't have to. Maybe you don't have your commander out on the battlefield and you don't want them to go in there yet. And then you can put a creature from among them into your hand. Now, you may be wanting to put them onto the battlefield instead of into your hand, so that's why it's a may. And as far as card types go, those are found in the middle of your card, which of course are your creatures, your sorceries, your instant. Things like legendary aren't considered a card type. The creature type is not a card type, so things like elf shaman or elf or whatever are not the card types either. So we did have that question come up yesterday, so I thought I would.
Yeah, definitely. Izoni Thousand Eyed. This is a great little graveyard deck card. She is a elf shaman, 2/3, but you have to pay 2 and 2 black and 2 green for it. But it has undergrowth. So when it enters the battlefield, you get to create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token for each creature card in your graveyard, which is really, really good. And then you can pay a black and a green and sacrifice another creature, and you gain 1 life and draw a card.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent. And then we have Selvala, Heart of the Wilds, for 3. She's a 2/3. She's got a nice little wolfie with her. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, its controller may draw a card if its power is greater than each other creature's power. And then you can pay 1 and tap it to add X mana in any combination of colors where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So this is another one that kind of crosses categories that is good for mana, as well as it's a body, as well as it has some card draw on it. So nice little utility card for this deck.
Yeah. It helps your opponents draw cards too, so keep that in mind as well. Faithless, yeah. Faithless Looting. It is a great little sorcery that has draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. There's your little discard engine. That's a really nice thing to have, and it has flashback, so you can do that again from the graveyard. So that is really helpful for when you're trying to do this whole thing with your commander.
Yeah. Or even if it ends up in your graveyard from milling it or something like that, you can still use it. It's not just a dead card. Totally. Siphon Mind for 4 is a sorcery. Each other player discards a card. You may draw a card for each card discarded this way. So a little card draw, as well as, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is the second commander allows you to play things from their graveyards. Yeah. Yep. So this will help if you're using or you have the other card on the battlefield, or you're using it as your commander.
Grapple with the Past. It is a little instant for 1 and a green that says mill 3 cards. Then you may return a creature or land card from your graveyard to your hand. Again, that whole little discard engine, or sorry, not discard, but getting rid of things from your library that you want to put in your graveyard.
This is a crazy card. It's got like a teddy bear, and we got Emrakul, and the text is like, Emrakul does not grant wishes. Desires simply align with her. Anyways, very Eldrazi. Grizzly Salvage for 2 is an instant. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature or land card from among them into your hand. Put the rest into your graveyard. So it doesn't matter if you have to put them in the graveyard. That's good for you if you have your commander out.
Death Reap Ritual is a little 2, a green and a black. Enchantment that says Morbid at the beginning of each end step, so including theirs. If a creature died this turn, you may draw a card. Nice.
And on to our next section already. I'm doing all the section introductions, and this one is removal. Formula calls for 15. Our deck has 11, and the first is our lovely Garruk, Apex Predator. It's our first Planeswalker for 7. He's a 5 loyalty Planeswalker. So his little loyalty counters, he has 2+1 abilities. Plussing a 1 gets you to destroy another target Planeswalker. Or you can create a 3/3 black beast creature token with Death Touch, and it's always nice to have Death Touchers on there for removal. Or you can destroy target creature and gain life equal to its toughness, so double whammy there. And if you get to its plus or his 8, where you can do his -8, you can target opponent gets an emblem, which they can never get rid of. That whenever a creature attacks you, it gets +5/+5 and gains trample until the end of turn. So that's an emblem
What?
on them, and anybody that attacks them, their creatures are going to get +5/+5 and trample. So they're pretty much dead. So it's play removal too. It's a pretty high impact card. Lots of removal.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. A cursed marauder. This is a 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a non token creature. That's okay. You have ways to
Yep.
deal with things. Let's
Mm-hmm.
just make them sacrifice something.
Exactly. And gluttonous hellkite. This is the one card that has X in it. So it's XX and 3, one of each color, for a 3/3. And when you cast this spell, each player sacrifices X creatures, and it enters the battlefield with 2/1/1 counters on it for each creature sacrificed. This way, it has flying and trample. So this is one that you're going to want to have in your hand. So a lot of the things that you've been playing with or that we've talked about so far are all about like making a choice of what to put in your graveyard and what to have in your hand. This is one you're going to want to cast.
Yeah. Chandra's Ignition. This is a little sorcery for 3 and 2 red. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature and each opponent. Whoa.
Each opponent.
It's a
And
big
yesterday,
deal.
when
For
our
only
friend
5.
was playing it, like he had his things were, if it's all creatures in all graveyards, they were like 20/20s, right?
They were
So
big. Yep.
20 damage to each creature and each player is crazy. Final act for 6. Choose one or more. So you can choose all of them if you want. Destroy all creatures, destroy all planeswalkers, destroy all battles, exile all graveyards, or each opponent loses all counters. Lots of choices with that one.
Maelstrom Pulse for 1 and a black and a green. It's a little sorcery that says destroy target non-land permanent and all other permanents with the same name as that permanent. So someone's getting a little crazy with their treasures or little sapperlings or something. You can get rid of all of them at once.
All right, help me out with this one. Bituminous
Yeah,
Blast?
sure.
That's phonetic. Anyways,
Nice.
hooked on phonics worked for me. 5 for an instant. I just dated myself.
Yeah.
This one has Cascade, and it deals 4 damage to target creature. So when you cast it, not only are doing 4 damage to each creature, you get to exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card that costs less, so less than 5. And you may cast that without paying its mana cost. So it's basically you just keep going until you hit something that's not land, and you get to cast it for free. So double whammy.
Yeah. Colligan's Command. It's for 1, a black and a red. It's an instant. Choose 2. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So get some of your stuff back again. A target player discards a card. Could be you. Destroy target artifact. That's handy sometimes. And it could also deal 2 damage to any target. Depends what you need. Got some options.
You just need 2, right? Riveteer's Charm. Target opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker they control with the highest mana value among creatures and planeswalkers they control. And then exile the top 3 cards of your library until your next turn, and you may play those cards, or you can exile target player's graveyard. So again, lots of choices.
Terminate. It's just a little instant for red and the black. Red and the black. Yep. Destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. Just a little removal.
And last, but certainly not least in this section, we have Find and Finality. So these are ones that you are going to choose one or the other to cast. And that's basically the choice that you make. Some of them you can cast both sides. Those ones kind of are turned the opposite way. So this one, because they're both the same way, you know that you have to choose one or the other. So you're going to return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand, or you're going to choose Finality, which is 4 and a black and a green, and put 2/1/1 counters on a creature you control. Then all creatures get -4/-4 until the end of turn, which is some good removal in some instances.
Mm-hmm. Then we're on to our high impact cards for this deck, and the formula calls for 12, and we think that there are 18 in this deck because
Yeah.
there is a
It's
lot
pretty
of
high
power
impact
in
deck.
this.
Yeah.
Is a very powerful deck. So the first one we have is one of our other planeswalkers, Grist the Hunger Tide. It's just a little 3 loyalty for 1 black and a green planeswalker that has, as long as he isn't on the battlefield, it's a 1/1 insect creature in addition to its other types. So kind of not relevant in this deck because you're not using him as your commander or anything. But his +1 is you create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token, then mill a card. So there's that milling. You want to have milling happening. If it's an insect card was milled this way, you put a loyalty counter on Grist to repeat this process. So you don't have a lot of insect cards in this deck. So again, that's kind of irrelevant. You just want that milling happening. You have your -2 as you may sacrifice a creature, and when you do, you get to destroy target creature or planeswalker. So this could be in the removal as well, but he's more about the milling that for you, this one. And then his -5 is each opponent loses life equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. That could be a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And because your Lurgoyfs, if you have your commander out, your Lurgoyfs will come back. You could sacrifice a Lurgoyf in order to destroy a target creature, and then it would automatically come back, which if it has an enter the battlefield effect, then you can get like an extra enter the battlefield effect. So that could be some way to use that as removal as well. I think that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And our next planeswalker that's fairly high impact is Liliana Death's Majesty for 5. She's a 5 loyalty planeswalker. You can +1 her to create a 2/2 black zombie creature token and mill 2 cards.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you can mill some stuff and possibly put it out onto the battlefield. Or if you haven't had a chance to get something back, you can just -3 her and return something from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature is a black zombie in addition to its other colors, or you can destroy all non-zombie creatures. So that one might not be as relevant because it will affect yours depending on whether you've been able to bring them back, but it did some work yesterday.
It sure did. Being able to bring back that big stuff that, oh my gosh, yeah, it was just crazy. We have the Archon of Cruelty, so this is a good example of something you can bring back because it costs 8 to play, but it's a 6/6 flyer, but if it's in your graveyard, you get to play for free. Whoa. Yeah. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, oh my gosh, target opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, discards a card, and loses 3 life. You draw a card and gain 3 life. Huge impact for you.
Archons.
Yeah.
Another good high impact card is Broodmate. Tyrant is a dragon. For 5/5, it costs you 7, but when it enters the battlefield, you get to create another 5/5 dragon creature token with flying, and it has Encore, so you can play it from your graveyard for its Encore cost. So if it accidentally got put back in or milled that way, that's another way to bring it back. So having this deck has a lot of things that are like, it's okay if it went into the graveyard because you were milling, because you can get it back in some way.
Yeah. This is the other planeswalker, Coram the Undertaker. We kind of already talked about it. That's where it, again, what did I say?
You said planeswalker. It's fine.
Oh, I mean commander. Sorry. So yeah, if you're getting the other players to mill as well, that really helps. You get to steal them basically. Yeah. So fun.
And Junji, the Midnight Sky for 5. She's a 5/5. I'm assuming it's she because of the flowers, but I don't know. It could be he. Yeah. Flying Menace. When Junji, the Midnight Sky dies, choose 1. Each opponent discards 2 cards and loses 2 life. Could be you. Or you can put a target non-dragon creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And it's a graveyard, so it could be theirs, and you lose 2 life. So
yeah. It's the opponents that discard, so it doesn't help your discard, but that's okay. So here we are into our Lurgoyf section. The Lurgoyf. So this one is just plain old Lurgoyf for 2 and 2 green. This one's power is equal to the number of creature cards in all graveyards, and its toughness is equal to that +1. So it's just a simple Lurgoyf creature, which is awesome.
Yeah. When you play this deck, just be prepared to continually ask, how many creatures are in your graveyard?
Mm-hmm. Have a
Just
little note thing
have a
there
little
for.
note thing and just try and keep track. But yeah, you're going to have to ask a lot. Mortivore for 4. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of creature cards in all graveyards, and you can pay 1 and regenerate Mortivore. So basically, that just means that if it's going to die, be destroyed, instead of that, you get to tap it and remove it from combat and heal all damage that's on it. So, some people have had the question, can I regenerate even if it's not during combat? Yes, that can be done. It's
Mm-hmm.
the next time this creature would be destroyed. So if something else is destroying it, then you can still do it.
Something I keep forgetting is that your commander, it has to be a Lurgoyf permanent that gets discarded into your.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting that. So it's, you can't bring back anything, but we have something
But
that might help with that later
yes.
that we're going to talk about. Necrogoyf. This is a power is equal to the number of creature cards in all graveyards. Beginning of each player's upkeep, that player discards a card, including you. This one has madness, so this one is nice to use as a discard card because when you discard this guy, you can play it for its madness cost, which is a lot cheaper. So that's kind of nice. But that's a way. His toughness is only 4, so he might die a little bit earlier than the other ones, but that's okay.
It's fine. If he goes to the graveyard, guess what? He's a Lurgoy. Polygoyf is another Lurgoyf. Trample, he has Myriad, and its power is equal to the number of card types. This is the types one in all graveyard, and of course, its power is +1
Yeah.
that. So what is Myriad? Basically, it is whenever this creature attacks each opponent other than the defending player, basically you're creating another copy of it and also attacking those players. So if I decide to attack Shauna, then my other 2 opponents get one coming at them as well.
Yes, it's crazy. It's crazy. And your commander is also not when they die. It doesn't come back. It's only when they get discarded
Oh,
or
other
off of
than
the
the
top of the library.
battlefield.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Yes,
keep
yes.
forgetting that. It's a complicated little thing, but it can be very powerful, which
Yeah.
we saw.
Just reading the cards again. Yeah.
Yeah. Pyrogoyf, this guy, power equal to number of card types among, so this is the card types one, among all cards in graveyards, and his toughness is that number +1. And whenever this or another Lurgoyf enters the battlefield under your control, that creature deals damage equal to its power to any target. So when you're using your commander to make those little Tarmogoyfs, those are Lurgoyfs as well, so they do damage as well. So
This one killed so
it
many
did a
people
lot
last
of
night.
damage last night. Yeah.
Because their power, if especially those other Lurgoyfs, if it's like based on all creatures, suddenly it's
Yeah.
doing, 16 damage at once.
Yep.
It was ridiculous. Sawhorn
Yep.
Nemesis is our next one for 4. It's a 2/4, and when it enters the battlefield, you're going to choose a player. If a source would deal damage to the chosen player or a permanent they control, it deals double that damage instead. So that person that is doing
So mean.
all of the stuff besides you, obviously, is the one you're going to pick and target in that way.
Yeah. This is a great card for this deck because of all the graveyard shenanigans. Sir Conrad the Grim, 5/4. Whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield. So this is helpful for that whole discard thing you got going on. Or another creature actually leaves your graveyard. So when you're discarded it and you get to bring it back because of your commander, it actually happens twice. So he would deal 1 damage to each opponent. That can be really helpful. And he has a little handy dandy you pay 2 and each player mills a card. He's got a little mill thing going on there. So that helps you too.
Yeah.
Perfect for this deck.
Yep. Zayatora, the Incinerator, is a nice little demon dragon. 3, 4, 5, 6. This costs for a 6/6. Flying at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, it deals damage equal to the creature's power to any target that and you create 3 treasure tokens. So you're going to get some treasure, you're going to do some damage, some nice
Mm-hmm.
ongoing removal, plus it's a 6/6 flyer. It's, yeah.
Yep. Then we have an artifact that is a kindred artifact, Lurgoyf. It's called the Altar of the Goyf for 5. And whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of card types among cards in all your graveyards. And Lurgoyf creatures you control have trample.
Yeah.
Having those big things have trample is game winning for sure.
Game winning. And this is a nice little card to have.
Mm-hmm.
Lightning Greaves for 2. It equips for 0, and it just gives that thing that you need, haste and shroud. You can move it around as you need. Just a reminder that shroud basically gives it hexproof from your opponents as well as yourself. So that's the difference between hexproof and shroud. So you cannot, once this is on there, you can't now target your own creature with
Mm-hmm.
things. So something to remember.
Yeah. Then we have a card that solves that whole is this a Lurgoyf problem with your commander. This is Maskwood Nexus. This is a must include for this deck, and Wizards included it. This is a hard card to come by, and it's expensive.
Thank you, Wizards.
Yes. So this one is awesome, awesome for this deck because all your creatures are every card type. Suddenly, everything in your deck is a Lurgoyf. So you can imagine what that's going to do. And same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. So those ones in the graveyard, those ones that you're discarding, those are Lurgoyfs. Mm-hmm. You pay 3 and you can create a 2/2 blue shapeshifter creature token with changeling. So then you make a whole bunch of little creatures as well with this guy. So it just generates stuff. So good for you.
Mm-hmm. And if you have a commander on the battlefield and your Maskwood Nexus, then this next enchantment is going to be very high power for you. Dead Bridge Chant for 6. It's an enchantment that when it enters the battlefield, you're going to mill 10 cards. So there's a good chance you're going to get a lot of things back out on the battlefield for free. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to choose a card at random from your graveyard. If it's a creature card, you can return it to the battlefield. Otherwise, return it to your hand. So just getting anything back is like basically your
turn
turns your graveyard into another hand. So
yep, it's random, but so what?
So good.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Then we've got our support section. So the formula calls for 10. This deck has 12. They're really good support. The first one that we have here is a 2/2 little card called Anger for 3 and a red. It has haste. And as long as Anger is in your graveyard and you control a mountain, creatures you control have haste. So make those big things and they suddenly have haste.
Yeah, and while you're at it, might as well add some brawn to the mix. It's a 3/3 for 4. It's got trample. And as long as it's in your graveyard, so you're just going to want to get it there at some point, which you can do through mill or just swinging with abandon. And you control a forest. Creatures you control have trample.
Yeah. Then we've got the Blood Braid Challenger. This is just a little support aggressive guy. 4/3 for 5 that has Cascade. So you just do that whole little thing where you take things off of the top of your deck until you find something less than 5 mana cost. And it has haste, and you can escape. So do it again. Escape is where you would exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. And then you get to do it again with this card.
And Blood Braid Elf for 4 is a 3/2. It has haste as well. And it has Cascade. And we've already talked about Cascade. Basically, you're just going to exile cards from the top of your library till you find something that is less than 4.
And Eternal Witness, again, to help you bring stuff back from the graveyard. You've been putting things in there. You've got to have other ways to get it. Eternal Witness lets you do that. When it enters the battlefield, you may return target card, any card, from your graveyard to your hand.
Yep. Exterminator Magmarch. It's another 4 mana cost, but it's a 5/3 4 mana cost with abilities. So whenever you cast an instant or a sorcery spell that targets only a single non-land permanent an opponent controls, if an opponent controls 1 or more non-land permanents that spell could target, choose one of those permanents. Copy that spell, then copy the target. The copy target's copy that spell. The copy targets the chosen permanent, which is a big long paragraph to say, hey, you're doing this to someone's permanent, do it to another one as well.
Yep.
This also has regenerate exterminator, so you can
Yeah.
regenerate him.
Yeah. It's crazy. Grave Shifter, this is a little 2/2 changeling, so it's already all types, so it is already a Lurgoyf as well. But when it enters the battlefield, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. It just helps you get stuff back.
Mm-hmm. Infested Why am I having such trouble talking today? Thrinax, because the words are weird.
Yeah.
5, it's a 4/4. It has flash, so that means you can play it at instant speed. When it enters the battlefield until the end of turn, whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you get to create a number of 1/1 saprolines equal to the creature's power. So you get some stuff back, and so you'd flash that in when someone does a board wipe.
Mm-hmm. Siege Gang Lieutenant, a 2/2 little goblin that has Lieutenant, which means at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, you get to create 2 little goblins, and those tokens have haste, and then you can sacrifice a goblin and deal damage to any target. So finish something off.
Stitcher's Supplier for 1. It's a little 1/1. It allows you to mill 3 cards.
Then we have Tempt with Mayhem. This is a little instant for 1 and 2 red that says Tempting Offer. So you get to choose a target instant or sorcerer spell. Each opponent may copy that spell and may choose new targets for the copy they control. You copy that spell once, plus an additional time for each opponent who copied it. You may choose new targets for the copies you control.
Yep.
So you're just saying, hey, everyone, if we want to destroy things, let's destroy things.
Yep.
Or whatever. Draw cards. Who knows?
And this is a not to be underestimated card, and please don't forget about it once you use it. Tarmogoyf Nest, which is terrifying. It's 3 mana cost. You enchant a land, and a lot of times people enchant their lands, and then they forget their lands have abilities. I say a lot of people, I really mean me. Enchanted land has pay 2 and tap it to create a Tarmogoyf token. So just a way to get more Tarmogoyfs out onto the battlefield, creating tokens after someone, because people are going to try and get rid of your stuff. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So that, this deck has 39 lands, so that's quite a few. So that might be where you might think about doing some tweaking. And as I say that, we're going to tell you about some of the tweaks. So thanks for sticking around this long. We'll tell you a couple here right now. And the one of them is, let's get some more goyfs in here. Lurgoyfs. Nethergoyf is one that wasn't included, and its power is equal to the number of card types among cards in your graveyard. And this is in your graveyard, and its toughness is equal to that number plus 1. This one has escape on it, so you can exile any number of cards from your graveyard with 4 more card types among them and get to play this again. So this is just a little 1 mana cost dude that could potentially be pretty big for you.
And of course, because you don't have enough Tarmogoyfs on the battlefield with your tokens, I don't know, they just decided not to put any Tarmogoyfs in there. Guess they figured you're going to be making them. You don't need him originally, but definitely another Lurgoyf you could add. Tarmogoyf is for 2, and its power and toughness are equal to types. So,
yeah. Then we were thinking, what about Sheoldred, the Whispering one? This is a big praetor that's 6/6 for 5 and a 2 black. This one, what a great card to be able to play for free. Has Swamp Walk, so it can't be blocked as long as defending player has a swamp. So that's quite a few people. At the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. Oh, sorry. Your stuff dies. I'm bringing stuff back. It's, it'd really help you.
Yeah, every graveyard deck pretty much needs that. Animal Magnetism for 5 is a sorcery. It allows you to reveal the top cards of your library. An opponent then can choose a creature card from among them and put that card onto the battlefield and the rest into your graveyard. So they're going to really have to think, especially if you have your commander out, because any of the Lurgoyfs that go into your graveyard are just going to come back anyway. So, yeah, we thought that would be a really good add.
A little bit of political, too. Benefaction of Ronus. This is another card that does a similar sort of thing for 2 and a green. Sorcery, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature card and or an enchantment card from among them into your hand. Put the rest into your graveyard. So, yeah.
And remember, we said that this was kind of lacking on card draw, so all of these cards help with kind of shuffling through your deck and getting things where you need them. Discerning Taste for 3. Again, you can look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. You gain life equal to the greatest power of cards put into your graveyard this way.
And Mulch, it is just a nice little 2-cost sorcery that says reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all land cards revealed this way into your hand and the rest in your graveyard. If the creatures are there, land in your hand, you're good to go.
Yeah. Another one that does a similar thing is Winding Way for 2. So choose creature or land, reveal the top 4 cards of your library, put all cards of the chosen type revealed this way into your hand and the rest into your graveyard.
Mm-hmm. Then we need more card draw. So Garruk's Uprising is a pretty auto-include, we think, for this deck. An enchantment that says when it enters the battlefield, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you get to draw a card. Creatures you control have trample. That's a must for when you have big beasts. And whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Really, really gets you going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the trample, right?
The trample,
Great.
yeah.
And then in Garruk's Wake, of course, we have a Garruk in this deck. So you have to have in Garruk's Wake in the deck. That's
sure.
Just to be on theme. But it is a good card. So 9, it's a sorcery. Destroy all creatures you don't control and all planeswalkers you don't control.
Very angry guy. Altar of Dementia. This is a fun little artifact for 2 that says sacrifice a creature. And then target player puts a number of cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power from the top of their library into their graveyard. Depending what you want to do, you probably want to do that to yourself, but not necessarily. You might want to just get rid of something in that person's graveyard over there. You never know. But we were thinking this gives you some options.
Yeah. Well, and milling somebody else is also removal, right? You're stopping them from playing their cards.
Yeah.
We love this card. Well, I do anyways.
Yeah.
I shouldn't speak, but we thought it was pretty good. Angel of Suffering for 5. It's a 5/3. It has flying, so therefore it's good. It's a good body just in and of itself. But if damage would be dealt to you, prevent that damage and mill twice that many cards. So you're gonna get your mill engine going. People aren't going to want to attack you because their damage is being prevented anyway, and you're just getting more stuff into your graveyard. So it's a good way to kind of be like, just slow down. And by the way, I have a 5/3 flyer. So, I mean, really, if you can find it, that's a great one.
Yeah. Another fun card that might be fun to include in this deck if you have one is Breach the Multiverse for 5 and 2 black. This one is each player mills 10 cards. For each player, you get to choose a creature or planeswalker card in that player's graveyard. Put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. So it doesn't have to be the ones that are milled. Then each creature you control becomes a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. But you get to steal their best thing and put something good out for you. And it would probably do something really good in this deck. It'd be fun to try.
Yeah. And Mesmeric Orb is a great one too because it benefits you and does not benefit them. So it's a nice little 2 mana cost artifact. And when a permanent becomes untapped, which is their creatures and their lands, including yours, that permanent's controller mills a card. So it doesn't matter for you because you're going to want to mill, but for them, they're going to be constantly milling stuff into their graveyard that they maybe don't. So they will be annoyed with you a little bit.
And then there's it's a cheaper upgrade that you might want to try. Old Rutstein, for one, a black and a green. It is a little 1/4 that when he enters the battlefield or at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to mill a card. And so then if a land card is milled this way, you get to create a treasure. So there it helps with your mana. And if a creature card is milled this way, you get to create an insect. And if a non-creature, non-land is milled this way, you get to create a blood token. And blood tokens help you draw cards and discard cards. So why not? So it would be a great little include, and it wouldn't be expensive to upgrade in this deck.
Yeah. Buried Alive is also a nice little sorcery for this deck because you get to actually make some choices. So for 3, you can search your library for up to 3 creature cards and then put them into your graveyard. Then shuffle.
Mm-hmm. Put the
Choices.
Lurgroyfs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we have the battle here, the invasion of Chandalar. And as it enters, you choose an opponent to protect it. And then you can attack it. So when it enters the battlefield, return up to 3 target permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. So let's get some of that stuff back. And then when you do get rid of its 4 points there, you get it transforms into Leyline Surge, which is an enchantment that says at the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. What? For free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it. That's probably really good for the Eldrazi deck as well. Anyways, but
Oh,
we can
yeah.
talk about that in another video. Spoilers. Go check out our other videos.
Oh, gosh. Yep.
The other good thing about this one too is that it's a battle, which is another type.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
so,
Really good point, Leslie.
yeah. So it
Yep.
gets you that extra type where there's no other battles in this and someone might not be playing with it. So therefore you get possibly a battle into your graveyard.
Yep. Definitely.
So yeah, thank you so much for sticking with us. We really appreciate it. We would love to hear what you would put into this deck, or if you've played it, how it's working for you. Please feel free to connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Of course, our email is in our bio here, so feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear what you're doing. That's it for this time, and we'll see you next time. In the meantime,
Tap those magic cards and have fun doing it. Bye, everyone.
bye, guys.